Hi, Tony from Micro Center here. Hey, I've got a simple question for you. When is a computer off? Well, like most questions, the answer is that depends. And in this case, it depends on what you think off means. Now, before we go into all the gory details and my recommendations of what you should be doing, you're probably thinking, why should I care about whether it's on or off? Well, depending on whether it's on, off, or somewhere in between, you could lose your data, you could lose your programs and need to reinstall them, you could possibly have a large repair bill. The reason I'm doing this topic this month is we have far too many customers who come into Micro Center with their laptops still running. They pull them out of their briefcase, or worse yet, they're just carrying them loose, and they're still running. And they don't realize that there's the possibility of mechanical damage or heat damage. So let's start it with the basics of what on and off means. On means power is flowing to some device and the device is working. Think of a light bulb. Off, the device is not working because there's no power flowing to it. And this is key, no power flowing to it. You know, if you're going to go work on an electrical socket in your house, you really make sure that the power is off and not something else. And what could that something else be? Well, some version of standby or sleep or just waiting for you to hit the buttons on your remote control. More and more nowadays, we don't actually have anything that's off. If you've got a remote control to turn something on, there's power flowing to it, like your TV. If there's a quick start or an instant start mode, it's not really off either. It's not really off because power is going to it, it's generating some heat, and it's at risk of being damaged. Now let's kind of get back to the basics of on and off. Most things don't actually say on and off anymore. They've all gone very high-tech and very 21st century, so they use a 1 for the symbol for on and 0 for off, maybe, and we'll get to that in a minute. Or they combine them into one symbol. In this combined on-off symbol, it means that if you press the button, power will go to the device. If you press the button again, it will toggle it off. And it's supposed to mean fully off, as in no power going to the device. So that's pretty simple, right? Well, then you get this button. Now, what in blazes is that? Well, it's the standby symbol, which means that when you press it, most of the power is being turned off to the device. So it's in a low power state, sleep or standby. Remember, low power is not no power. And that won't exactly make the kind of bumper sticker we're looking for. But if you've got this symbol and you turn your device off, it's not really off. So if you've got a desktop computer and you think it's off and you start pulling memory out of it or installing a new video card, you could actually damage the machine to the point that you can't get it running again. Okay, let's have a little geek fest here and have TMI, FYI, and just in case you're really interested in how they define the different power states. Now I want you to look at this chart and I want you to do one thing. Forget about it. Instead, think about what's really important. How the machine is behaving at any given point and what that means for you. So let's do a quick review and then we'll go into each of these in a little bit more detail. On is on. Any questions? Okay. Sleep, standby, suspend. Over time, they've all meant kind of the same thing, and if you go back to that other slide, they have some really technical definitions. Hibernate, I want this to become your new best friend by the end of the presentation. Then there's off, maybe, or not really, and wakeable. And then there's really off, also called mechanical off, and we'll get into that. Okay, on, this is the easy one to understand. Power is flowing, spinning parts are spinning. If you think about it, if power is flowing to your computer and spinning parts are spinning, don't drop the thing in water and don't drop the thing on a hardwood floor. The water will get the electricity shorted out and do damage. Dropping it on the floor will get the spinning parts to break. You're also generating heat, a computer's worst enemy, and just paying something to consume that electricity. Now, the reason I bring this up goes back to that explanation before about people coming in with their laptops running. Spinning parts, when they're spinning, are not meant to be moved around, as in carried to the car, riding in the seat next to you, falling off the seat as you come to a sudden stop, and hitting the floorboard. So, we're also in jeopardy of having the same problem in the sleep mode. I love the definition of sleep mode because it starts with the computer appears to be off, and appearances can be deceiving. It's okay for desktops to put them to sleep because pretty much they're not going to move around, at least you hope not. Laptops are always in motion, so I'd really avoid doing the sleep mode on desktop. Now, having said that, all major operating systems have a sleep mode, and it is better to put it in sleep mode than have the thing running in full power consumption on mode. You can manually set it, as this screenshot of the Mac OS screen. You can have it kick on at a certain period of time. Notice for a minute, though, the second box from the top, Wake for Ethernet Access. That's not checked in this screen. You can also have that checked on, both in the Mac operating system and Windows. Notice the Allow this device to bring the computer out of standby. Remember, standby and sleep, very similar definitions. So we always think of having to do something to bring the computer out of sleep. The computer will be okay if I don't touch the keyboard, if I don't hit the mouse. Well, not really. There are other things other than you that can bring it out of that mode. So you're not really safe in this mode, and the issue really becomes one of damage. Now, you've heard about the new solid-state drives that they're building into new computers that you can buy as an option for them. And they have two really distinct advantages. They're much, much faster than traditional hard drives. But they also have no moving parts. No moving parts is good because there's nothing to break because they're moving. This is a hard drive that's been taken apart to show you what a head crash actually looks like. You see that line in the platter? That's not supposed to be there. Something happened to this drive. The head slammed into the platter, and quicker than you could say one rotation, it scratched away the surface of the disk, destroying the data. Now, it's true that there are some hard drives that can park themselves when they're about to fall, but do you really want to chance it? And it doesn't take all that much time. This slide is an oldie but goodie that I've seen literally for 35 years that shows the clearance between the read and write head of a hard drive and the platter. You see that little green dot labeled smoke particle? Yep. The clearance between the head and the platter is smaller than a smoke particle, much smaller than a human hair. So from my perspective, it's not a question of, why the flying head hits the drive platter. It's how is it able to not hit it for all that period of time? See, leaving the laptop on in the car seat next to you is a much riskier proposition. Hibernate. This is my absolute favorite power state, and you should use it whenever possible. Technically, it's also called suspend to disk, and what it does is it takes a snapshot of everything that you're doing, writes it out to the hard drive, and then powers the machine down in such a way that you're consuming as little power as possible or none at all. But its big advantage is that you're not going to lose any data. You're not going to lose your hard drive because the hard drive stops spinning. Secondarily, it's a quicker reboot. It's not actually a reboot, but when you hit the power switch to come out of Hibernate, your desktop is back, your applications are where you left them, and everything takes less time than a cold boot where the power is really off. Now, there's also an off state called soft off. And this is kind of dangerous because power still may be flowing from the power supply or battery to the computer itself. And as we mentioned before, if it can be woken out of this mode, you may find that the machine is running when you really don't want it to be running. Another issue is on a laptop. If there's a small amount of power still trickling to the laptop and you decide to change the memory chips in it, you could damage the memory chips or the laptop. So how can you be sure if it's really? Well, there's a button for that. Actually, there's a couple of ways. There's a button and a plug for that. You see the 1 and 0 for on-off? On a desktop computer, only when it's in the 0 position is no power actually flowing to the computer. No switch on the power supply? Pull the plug. Literally, pull the plug out of the power supply or off the wall. But wait. Really wait for a couple of seconds, because somewhere on that power supply or motherboard is a small LED that is still glowing until it's absolutely stone cold powerless. Really off is also called mechanical off, and this is when there is zero power flowing to the device. It's called mechanical off because this is probably the only time you can actually work on it without the risk of destroying something. Now, you will have to do a full reboot, and that does take a little longer, but there is a purpose for mechanical off or zero power. Okay, so here are my recommendations. Well, when you're using it, you need to turn it on. Duh. Absolutely. Sleep. Hey, if it's a desktop and you're going to be back in 10 minutes or so, sure, why not? The desktop's not going to move, and even if it does get woken up by network traffic, so what? In general, whenever you can, hibernate your desktop or your laptop. You're saving power, you're protecting the machine as much as you can. By the way, if you're going to be away for hours of non-use or it's the end of the day, turn it off. USA Today had an article in March of 2009 estimating that overnight PCs cost companies $2.8 billion a year. Okay, maybe only a couple of bucks for you, but it adds up. Hey, this is Tony from Micro Center. I hope that helps, and I'm signing, you know I was going to say it, off.